to meditate. Good morning. Good morning, Suzanne and Anne and Zoe and Derek. Smile as I see all your names, all my friends and family and neighbors. We have been looking at and talking about the last few weeks about watching our thoughts, learning to be an observer of what is, learning to sit with what is, to practice mindfulness. And we have come to learn that mindfulness is about just learning to be in relationship with what is, to accept what is in this moment. And the moment that the moment that acceptance happens, there's an ability to open to it, accept it, as opposed to pushing it away because it might not be what we want. Then there comes an opening, an opportunity to just stop, and through our practices, we start to realize we gain clarity about what the right action might be in any moment. And I think we've also talked about how watching our thoughts is a little bit easier because they come up, they have a beginning, they go along. Sometimes we get hooked in, sometimes we don't. And then they dissipate or trail off or disappear. And then we're back to our anchor, back to focusing on our breath. So someone asked, yesterday or the day before, well, how do we're starting to learn how to not identify with our thoughts, right? Here are my thoughts, here's me. And for years and years and years, they've been like this. Now we're realizing yoga gives us a choice. We can step back and watch. I can follow that thought, get caught up in it, or not. I can be here, and I can choose to let that be, let that go. But emotions, we've realized, are a little trickier. So how do we not identify with our emotions? Not just in meditation, but in real life. When an emotion, as we sit, as you practice, and once we get to the point of meditation, we're going deeper. We're releasing old traumas, old samskaras. We're digging down in and opening up the store, opening up the root cellar and seeing what's in there. Some of it's been in there for a long time. And we're starting to shine the light in the darkness. And as that comes up, you know, it can create strong emotions, either a strong emotion about something that happened in the past or something that happened yesterday that you're still ruminating about or mumbling about or annoyed about. You know, so how do we not get carried off by our emotions? It's not easy. Emotions are trickier than thoughts. It's easy to get caught. It's easy to get lost in their energy, to get lost in the thoughts we have about being angry. Oh, I'm pissed off at my sister or my family member. Well, what they did was really wrong, and I wish they wouldn't do that. I don't know why they can't be more like me. So through that entanglement of identifying with that emotion, we create this very strong sense of self, this very strong sense of what Patanjali calls in the Yoga Sutra asmita. Asmita is a form of avidya, a form of ignorance, thinking that there is really some I here to get angry. And on one level, there is something here. You know, here is simply, I think I said this yesterday, is a location in consciousness. To say there's nothing here is ridiculous because I'm obviously here. But on another level, you know, this is all illusion. But let's stick with the relative plane and forget about the absolute plane, because that's where we are. So we have this, we realize this is a very strong klesha, a very strong form of keeping us in bondage, keeping us identified to what we think is who we are. Did you follow that? I'm not sure I followed that. You know, so it can be, here's some practical help. How do we actually not identify with our emotions? How do we, you know, it's like getting hooked on, oh, I just have a terrible image of somebody catching big fish, which I could never do, and being dragged off. It's a terrible image. I'm sorry I gave that to you. Let's try and think of something else. How we get hooked, and let's say we get our coat caught on the door of the car. We close the car door and we start to walk away. And as we walk away, bang, we don't go anywhere. We get pulled back and slammed into the car. We're hooked, right? How do we unhook? Okay, first of all, there's some external event that has caused us to be angry. And we tend to kind of blame that external event for our anger. Well, right away, we've given up our power, right? Once we begin to practice yoga, and this is a little aside here, for a long period of time without a break, we stop blaming. We realize that everything that happens to me in this lifetime, I have created, I have called in. You can't tell anybody else that. You can only experience that. Because when people are going through hard times, you can't tell them, well, you know, you caused this. Not able to do that. But you recognize it for yourself. And you begin responsibility. So first of all, there's one, external event. Two, there's our reaction to the external event. Boom, I'm pissed off. That wasn't right. That was insulting. That was offensive. That was mean. That was thoughtless. I'm pissed off. And I'm justified in being pissed off. Sometimes it feels good to be angry. We don't want to let go. We want to identify with the anger. Recognize that. See that. What is my reaction to this external event? And the third thing we can do is look at the relationship of our mind to the anger. Now, how do we do that? Usually we're lost in the first two, right? Usually we're lost in the first two. We're creating, and that, we're thinking about how pissed off we are, and that creates more anger and more rumination and more obsession. We go to bed at night, we're still thinking about it, it keeps us up. But at that point, we can turn to the third part of this and say, how am I getting caught? How am I identifying with this anger? We don't ask the question to get an answer. It's not like all of a sudden there's going to be an answer to our question. But something about asking the question helps us take responsibility, and it's like you're taking your power back. You're not blaming anymore. You're saying, how am I getting caught? I sometimes like to imagine that it's Jesus or Buddha or some great teacher who has come in disguise to just test me. Can you handle this? It's like shape-shifting. Right? A great teacher, someone with great wisdom, has come and shape-shifted and appeared to you as this thing that is pissing you off. And you see behind the disguise. That's what I do. It may not work for everybody, right? I go, oh. And our friend Mary Beth in South Carolina stops, looks at the situation, and she asks the question, thank you for the, it isn't a question really. It's, thank you for the opportunity to practice. Every time we get caught up, we get hooked. It's an opportunity to practice. And asking the question, again, helps bring clarity to the situation. It helps us determine what is the right action, not just in meditation, but in life. Sometimes it keeps coming up, this same anger keeps coming up. And sometimes the right action is about what Joseph Gold says, our sword of wisdom. Sometimes we need to act in a firm and decisive way. We're not just going to let it be or let it pass. Sometimes we have to be hard. Sometimes it's stira. It's not always sukha. It's not always surrender. And surrendering doesn't mean weakness. But to know that balance between hard and soft, to know that balance between when do I stand up and speak out, and when do I just step out of the way and let the flood go by. There's a wonderful video that I posted on this page yesterday of a black woman, Kimberly Jones, who is incredibly brilliant, passionate, articulate, very angry, but very clear in her anger. And the last thing she says in this video is, you're lucky that what black people are seeking is equality and not revenge. Whew. That was powerful. That comes out, that kind of anger, that's the sword of wisdom. So next time you're caught up, ask those 3 questions. What is the external thing that's happening here? My mother, my sister, my partner, my real estate agent, the neighbor, my kids. What is my reaction to it? What is this emotion I'm feeling about this? And what is my relationship to this emotion? how am I getting hooked in? How am I identifying with it? Because it's just a mind state. Now you can hear that. It's just a mind state. But at some point we actually hear that and recognize it's just a mind state. And it becomes, wow, really? Okay, time to sit and watch, see what comes up for you. 3 bells to start. Close your eyes. Come to a comfortable seated position and take a moment to find comfortable. Frozen? Are we frozen? Are you frozen? Was I frozen? I missed it. So imagine that you're just pulling the out of the sink and you're letting the dishwater drain out. Maybe we don't do dishes anymore. I do, but I guess most people use dishwashers. But just let all the words drain out and just sit. Drop into this moment. Close your eyes. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. Breathing in a long breath, I know that I'm breathing in a long breath. Or breathing in a short breath, I know that I'm breathing in a short breath. Breathing out a long breath, I know that I'm breathing out a long breath. Or breathing out a short breath, I know that I'm breathing out a short breath. Just be aware of the breath. Is it long or short? And what accompanies in the body that pattern? Just watching. Breathing in, aware of my body. Breathing out, I'm aware of my body. Alert and relaxed. What is coming up for you today? Frozen. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I calm my body. Continue to sit for a few more moments, keeping your eyes closed. Gently, slowly, mindfully returning from your indoor space, getting ready to enter outdoor space. Ooh, having a twist or a yawn or a hug. Oh, nice. Oh. Getting ready to open your eyes. I always like to cover them up with my hands and then slowly let the light in and open my eyes. Greet the day. That was about 14 minutes of actual sitting. I know I was frozen for a little bit. Somehow I didn't notice it here, but I know you guys noticed it. But there is good news. On June 30th, I will be getting fully connected to fiber optic high-speed internet. It's on the road. The wires have been run to my house, and in 2 weeks they bring whatever the equipment is I need into the house. So as of July 1st, there'll be no more freezing. Let's hope we keep going that long. Thanks for being here. Went by in a snap. Yes, it did. So once again, keep in mind, the three things. What is the external situation or condition that's causing my anger? What is my reaction to it? And what is my relationship to the emotion? How am I getting caught in it? How am I getting hooked in? Can I learn to observe it in the same way I learn to observe my thoughts and step back from those? And again, as we said, we're not asking the question to get an answer. We're asking the question to change perspective and take responsibility for our response. And it's not easy. So don't expect an overnight solution. No, you might get lucky. Thank you. I've got a weekend off. I do have some workshops and coming up in London and Ojai, California, all from the comfort of my home. And what else is coming up? Had a great weekend this past weekend at Nidya's Yoga Therapy in San Antonio. I love traveling around to all these places virtually. So enjoy your day. Thanks, Kate. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Thanks for all the hearts. Sunny, beautiful day here in the Berkshires in southwestern Massachusetts. I hope you all have a good one. Oh. Katery, how are you? It's good to see you. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Mary Lee. I like starting my day off this way too. Love hanging with all of you. Thanks, Kat. Fig Alley. Isn't that a great name? A character in a book. I might use your name one day if I ever write a novel. Thanks, Lisa. I was talking to you this morning, Laurie, as a matter of fact. Interesting work. Anger is compared to sadness or pain. There are so many levels of anger. That's getting more into fear, and I'll talk about that tomorrow, But why are we angry? We're angry. Doesn't everything go back to fear? fear of non-being. I mean, that's what they tell us in the Yoga Sutra. It seems to still be applicable today. Everything goes back to the strongest avidya, which is the fear of non-being or the fear of death, and that comes out of ignorance, of not knowing who we truly are. It's a journey. It's a journey. But what's the option? Once you get on this path, it's hard to forget about it. You can go back to finding ways to not deal with reality. But they all kind of lead to more suffering. Seems to me that walking this path of the search for truth leads to greater freedom and moves us to suffering. Oh, I have no idea how to write a novel. I can't imagine knowing how to do that. Love everybody. Bye, Cateri. Thanks for being here, everyone.